What's up? This is your girl, Angela Jones. What's up, my people? So, I'm going to get right into it, not take up too much time. I wanted to talk about why I decided to watch Surviving R. Kelly. I had just started hearing about the documentary probably at the end of December. I don't think I had heard about it prior to that. And I wanted to know why he wasn't in jail. That was the first reason that I watched. I wanted to know why he wasn't in jail. And that was a question on my mind in particular because I knew people before I was even a part of the entertainment industry who had told me they had seen the video and that it was undeniably him. I don't recall how old I was during the time that he was on trial, but I was grown because that was like 2006, I do believe. So I was a grown woman. Okay. And next thing I know, he was not in jail. He was acquitted. And I was like, but wait a minute. I know very reputable people who had no skin in the game whatsoever, had no reason to lie, had no reason to cover up anything, had no reason to say it was him if it wasn't. They had nothing to gain from lying. They said they saw the video, the sex tape with the 14-year-old girl, and that as far as they were concerned, that was clearly a child with a grown-ass R. Kelly. But a jury said it wasn't him. And I never knew the details of how that came about. So that was the first thing. How did he not get put in jail after his trial? Back in 6, I do believe it was. The second question I had was, how did Andrea Kelly not know what was going on if they were married? Because I honestly didn't even know he had a wife until they got divorced. I don't be keeping up with other people's business like that, y'all. I got a lot of shit going on in my own life. So if it's a blurb on a TV screen for 5 seconds, that was my exposure to it back then. Okay. And at the time, social media wasn't as big and broad and viral as it is now. So I found out Andrea Kelly existed right before she got on that reality show with Faith Evans and Shantae Moore and them, if I'm recalling the same reality show. That's when I found out she existed, really. So they had been divorced or were about to be fully divorced by that time. The divorce had been filed, though. So those were my two main questions. That was it. I didn't think any of these women were trying to have a come up. I wasn't thinking any of these women were lying. I wanted to know why he wasn't in jail and what Andrea Kelly knew of the situation while she was married to him. That's what I wanted to know. Everything else, I had no doubts. Because as a black woman, I know what it's like not to be believed when you're being preyed upon. I've been stalked. I've had men I didn't even date stalk me. I know what predators are like. I know how they try to play the victim after they have victimized others. I know this firsthand. Although I was never a young girl being preyed upon by grown-ass men that I knew of. In a minute, I'll tell you something I recently discovered. But I didn't have a lot of friends that were dealing with grown men either. So to me, that shit was normal. Like, we had boyfriends in high school that were in high school too. We didn't have boyfriends in high school that were 30 years old. That shit was not normal to me. I had a man follow me home once when I was in middle school. Used to catch the bus down to Trapper's Alley after school with my friends and then catch the bus home. Had my parents' permission. Adults at the school knew that we were doing this. We never lied about it. We never pretended that we were doing something other than. We didn't tell our parents one thing and do something else. And a lot of times, even a parent would pick us up or drop us off, but not all the time. But one time in particular, I was walking home from the bus stop that had dropped me off after I hung out with my friends at Trapper's Alley. And a grown-ass man in a BMW pulled up trying to get me to get him in the car. get in his car with him, talking about, I can take care of you. Oh, you so pretty and all this other kind of shit. And I was creeped the fuck out. That shit was not flattering to me. I was scared. And I think back that part of the reason I was afraid of that man is because from the time I had been like 9 years old, I had been very developed for my age. And boys in school used to practically try to rip my clothes off of me because they wanted to see my breasts. And so I knew what being creeped out by a guy felt like. I knew what being violated felt like at a young age. I used to try to wear big baggy clothes to hide the fact that I had breasts and hips because I was 9, 10, 11 years old. I tried to hide it. And so I never thought grown ass men paying attention to me was flattering because I didn't think little boys my age paying attention to me was flattering. It was creepy. It was creepy. And I never lied and said I was older than I was. So I never understood the fascination with girls getting, pretending to be older, stuffing their bras to make themselves look like they had bigger breasts, or getting fake IDs. I never understood the fascination with any of that. Because I didn't want to be considered older because I was already young, but with curves, so to speak. And it was drawing attention to me that I didn't even want at the time. And for me, I felt so much sadness for the girls that had been victimized. And I felt bad for the parents that actually cared about what was happening to their daughters. But this is a multi-layered type of scheme that R. Kelly and predators just like him always want to put out. And then the funny thing is, they try to convince us that the shit we saw with our very own eyes didn't happen. It wasn't real. That's the fucked up part. They manipulate the entire environment around them to the fact that they lie so good and so well and manipulate so good and so well that they convince sane, rational, logical people that the shit they saw with their own eyes never even happened. This man had girls lying about their age. This man had girls lying to their parents about their whereabouts. This man was using isolation, which is a real torture technique. People in the military will school you on it because that's some real shit. And he was using it as a tool to control them. And part of me feels like as a society, or even just as a culture, us African American people in the United States, we have allowed our children to be victimized for too long within our own community. It's bad enough when a white man do it. It's even worse when one of ours does it, as far as I'm concerned. Because we sit in silence and pretend like we can't say anything against another black person because then we'll become part of the system that's trying to keep them from becoming successful. And that's some fucked up shit. Because at the end of the day, R. Kelly should be behind bars or dead, along with plenty of other predators. There's other predators right now in jail that did less shit than him. Let's just keep it real. And in the state of Illinois, if he had herpes and he was passing herpes on to these girls, that is a felony. His ass should be in jail. I know motherfuckers in jail right now in Illinois for giving women herpes. And these were grown women, not little girls. So for a little girl, you got even more of a reason to consider it a felony because now it's also sex with a minor. And you're giving them an STD that they can never get rid of. And that's a felony. So then you want to know, well, why isn't he still in jail? One thing is some of the girls that were able to get away from him, their parents didn't file criminal charges. They just filed civil lawsuits. And civil lawsuits, may be easier to file. It takes less money to file them. The burden of proof is less. However, he was able to wiggle out of that shit because he had money. And they were willingly accepting settlements instead of pressing criminal charges. The fuck? Really? So he doesn't have to go to jail for a civil offense. That's not how the law is made up. He can only be convicted of a crime if it's a criminal prosecution, not a civil lawsuit. So you've got Lord knows how many. I lost count of how many they said they found. And that's just the lawsuits that they were able to dig up, of course. But he could have 100 civil lawsuits against him for the exact same shit. But if nobody ever comes forward to actually press criminal charges against him and follows through with that shit, that's why that motherfucker ain't in jail. Because people have been too easily appeased by civil settlements instead of filing criminal charges. So now he still to this day has women that he's been messing with, like the 14-year-old girl that he was sleeping with back then. She's still living in his house now. That's why he's not in jail. Another reason he's not in jail, men who don't believe women when we come forward. That white juror got in that documentary and flat out said that he didn't believe the women and he didn't like the way they looked and the way they dressed. That type of shit. But it's a lot of men. Y'all do that shit. Y'all side with the side of the band because you hate women. You hate everything about us. The only thing that you think we are good for is sex. You're a bunch of misogynists and co-predators. It's a lot of y'all. Some of y'all got friends right now that are abusing women, preying on women, stalking women, and doing all kinds of shit to women. And y'all niggas ain't doing nothing about it because that's your homeboy. And bitches be lying. And that's the way y'all think because you have been so programmed to hate your own women that nothing we do is ever good enough for you. Nothing we say is ever true enough for you. Until it happens to somebody you really, really love. Then y'all wake up. Sort of. Because you only care about the person that you love that it happened to. You don't care about the rest of the women. Then there's some of y'all that are fully woke. Y'all saw this nigga for who he was, but y'all still didn't do anything to help get him prosecuted. That's the thing. Not enough people with knowledge, full knowledge of what was going on, were participating in actually having criminal charges brought against this man and helping them to stick. Aaliyah's parents are at fault too, because Aaliyah was actually famous enough that had her parents pursued criminal charges, R. Kelly probably would have been in jail long before that sex tape. Because Aaliyah was considered the princess of R&B. Her reputation would have helped to prosecute him. But her parents denied anything ever happened, and they continue to deny it until this day. So R. Kelly's ass ain't in jail. And as far as Andrea Kelly, I had to know. And now I know he was abusing her, just like he was abusing all the rest of these girls. He was isolating her, locking her in rooms, sending her shopping, putting her in hotels. But she disappeared. So it was easy to hide it. So that's why I watched. And I've been blocking a whole lot of people who are co-predators out here in these streets validating R. Kelly's behavior. That's the one thing about shit like this. It exposes other predators. So pay attention to your social media timelines. There's a whole lot of men out here that think just like he does and thinks that women have no value other than to be a part of a sex cult or a sex toy or a porn star. And they really believe that about us. There are men who hate women but love having sex with us. And they are predators. Peace out, y'all.